Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over some mistakes that you might be making in Fortnite. I think that no matter how good or bad you are as a player, there's a good chance that from time to time, you probably make most of the mistakes that we're going to cover in this video. So hopefully by pointing out certain things that you're doing incorrectly and also how you can stop doing them, you can implement what you learned into your game and definitely become a better Fortnite player in the process. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first mistake that I want to discuss in this video is players playing too predictably. Now I know that's a pretty broad mistake in general, but I'll be sure to include some specific examples of what I mean by that and also how you can prevent it from happening in the future. So one of the most obvious examples of when players play way too predictably actually occurs when you break and replace someone's wall. In that situation, you absolutely have full control in that fight because there's so many different things you can do. However, despite all the potential different edit plays you can make, what the player inside the box is going to be expecting is a basic window edit. That's the simplest edit to make and therefore the most common one used by most players. But since it's so predictable, the majority of good players will just wait for you to make it, and then immediately crack you with a shotgun shot. I'm not saying to never make a window edit, but when you see an opponent just pre-aiming you as soon as you take his walls, that's when you're gonna want to switch it up. You can do a top corner edit, a top row edit, or even break and replace another one of his walls, so now he not only doesn't know what edit is coming, but he also doesn't even know which wall you're actually going to edit. Another situation where players are way too predictable is when it comes to retaking high ground. What a lot of players will do when they get built over or blocked off while building up is just immediately start building straight up in a different direction as an attempt to retake high ground. Now, if you're an insane builder that knows some super advanced retakes, that may work out for you a decent amount of the time. But if you're a more basic builder where your go-to retake is something like ramping up with another ramp over your head, that's simply way too easy for good players to counter. They'll just block you off again with a floor and then edit through it and kill you. So being unpredictable with retakes can actually be pretty simple. When you get blocked off or built over, instead of immediately building straight up for high ground, you can do something like box up for a few seconds, which will make your enemy want to apply pressure, and then when he jumps off of high ground and starts shooting at your front wall, edit out of the back, and now you can easily take high ground. Or you can do something like, instead of immediately going for a retake when you get built over, peek from low ground, and then if you hit your opponent with a shotgun shot, that'll probably make them retreat and maybe even box up, and then that's when you go for and hopefully take high ground. The next mistake in this video actually involves the very beginning of a Fortnite game, even before your feet hit the ground. Obviously, what I'm referring to here is jumping out of the battle bus and gliding down to your landing spot. I know a few of you guys out there will probably laugh at the notion that there's some kind of major mistake that a player can make simply while gliding down to the ground. But trust me when I say that's absolutely the truth. I really believe that being smart and good at jumping out of the bus and gliding down to the specific spot where you want to land is legitimately one of the most underappreciated skills in all of Fortnite. So the first mistake that players make when it comes to landing is actually very simple and therefore pretty easy to fix. They simply don't take it serious enough. I have certain friends that you'll sometimes see in my gameplays who play this game for multiple hours a day. And despite us pretty much always landing in the same 3 to 4 towns over and over again, they will die multiple games in a row within literally the first 30 to 45 seconds because they totally screw up their landing and they end up not getting a gun, so they're just forced to run around with their pickaxe out, hoping for some kind of miracle, I guess. And sometimes I'll watch them as we're gliding towards the ground, and I'll see firsthand why this happens so frequently. It's because they pretty much glide down in the general vicinity of whatever town we're landing at, and just kinda hope whatever random spot they pick to deploy their glider at is gonna result in them getting a good landing. And if what I just said describes your general approach to landing at the beginning of games, you're really putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. I always like to say that the first 10 to 20 seconds of a Fortnite game is probably the most important part of that entire game, especially if you like to hot drop. So instead of not really paying attention and just pulling out your glider whenever you feel like it, really try to start remembering certain points on the map that you can line yourself up with while gliding down. Back when I landed Big Bertha pretty much every single game, I basically knew from every possible bus path exactly where on the map to dive straight down on to ensure I'd get a perfect landing. You don't have to go that far with it, but since most people only land in the same couple towns every game, you can at least do something somewhat similar to that. The other really major tip for gliding down is to not always predetermine exactly where you're gonna land. Even though I just said I used to land Big Bertha and Tilted pretty much every game, there would still be times where I'd make a mistake on my landing and I'd see that people were gonna beat me to it. In those situations, please don't just think, "Aw man, this guy's gonna beat me to where I wanna land. Oh well, I'm still gonna go for it and I hope he's really bad and I find a gun before he does." I'm telling you, that is almost never gonna end up working out for you. Even though I love landing directly in towns like Salty or Pleasant, when I see that multiple players have a better landing than me, I'll realize that and reroute to something like a house or mountain on the outside of the town and then push in after I loot up. Trust me, if this is something you really struggle with, you'll be shocked by how much consistently getting better landings will result in you playing better. The final mistake I want to discuss in this video is most applicable to any kind of competitive mode such as arena or in-game tournaments, but it can also somewhat be applied to regular public matches as well. A small mistake that a lot of players make in Fortnite is that they always use wood as their first material in fights. The first reason why that isn't a great idea is because brick and metal have a higher starting health and also a higher max health. So in situations where you have, say, 300 wood, 300 brick, and 200 metal, it's probably smart to use the brick and metal first because it'll give you a slight advantage if players try to spray your structures. But in any kind of competitive mode with a 500, 500, 500 material cap, there's a bigger reason why you want to use brick or metal instead of wood in build battles, and it revolves around the fact that almost every other player uses wood first. Let me explain this by giving you two examples. In the first example, you have max mats, which is actually very common in competitive modes due to the faster farming rate, and you go to build fight a player. He's using wood, and you also choose to use wood. After you guys have both used roughly 400 mats, you finally end up killing him. So at the end of the fight, now you have 100 wood, 500 metal, and 500 brick. When you go over his dead body, since he used 500 wood, he's going to drop 100 wood, 500 metal, and 500 brick. That metal and brick doesn't help you since you're already maxed out, and now you're only going to have 200 wood and 1200 total mats. If you had instead used brick, for example, in this fight, you would have been at 500 wood, 100 brick, and 500 metal after getting the kill. In that scenario, when you go over his dead body, it won't matter that he only dropped 100 wood because you're already maxed out, and the 500 brick he dropped will bring you right back from 100 to max. So in the scenario where you used wood first, you came away with 1200 mats, and in the scenario where you used brick first, you ended up with 1500. I know that it isn't always going to work out as perfectly as it did in that scenario, but knowing that most players use wood first means that in long build battles, they're going to run out of it really quickly, and therefore drop very low amounts of wood, if any, when you kill them. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down the comment section below. Be honest, do you feel like you make any of the mistakes that we covered in this video, and if so, which one? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.